listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay, and this is a program called
The Wonderful World of Wardini Books.
It's my pleasure, as always, to have in the studio the wonderful Lou from Wardini Books in Havelock North. How are you going?
Very well indeed, thank you.
I love your hair.
Thank you. I had it done yesterday.
Yeah, it looks great. People have been complaining to me about my hair being too long.
Nah, keep it long, Ken.
Yeah, and I've been saying to them, every time someone criticises my hair, I'm going to grow for an extra month.
Yep.
So I'm going to have it as long as what Jesus had it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's
works out all right for it. Well, no, it didn't, did it? I don't think it was his hair, though.
Anyway, as always, like I say, wonderful to see you. We've got three fabulous books to have a look at today, and the first one is called In Amber's Wake. What's that all about?
It is, and because I've got two books for you that are out in January. I know we're in January, yes, but they're not quite here yet, so I'm passing them around the staff at Wardini Books, so I haven't brought them in today. So the first is In Amber's Wake, as you say, and it's by Christine Lunans, and she wrote Caging Skies, which was turned into the Jojo Rabbit film.
Ah, yes, that was a great film. I enjoyed that.
It's a great film, eh? So she's a New Zealander. I think she's from the South Island. And so In Amber's Wake is a brand new novel, and it's set in the 80s, and it's got the backdrop of activism, the Rainbow Warrior, that kind of thing, which was massive in New Zealand history, obviously. And Amber is a woman. She is a young woman with quite a sort of traumatic past. And at one of these hippy-dippy music festivals, she's wandering around in a waif-like state and catches the eye of Ethan, who is our protagonist. It's a first-person narrative. And he's quite captivated by her right from the start. And they spend the night sitting on a hill looking out at the stars, and it's all very magical.
Lovely.
It's all lovely. And this is the start of their love story, because this is a very deep, obsessive love story. And off they go, and he can't believe he didn't sort of like strike while the iron was hot, and he leaves it a bit. And by the time he comes across Amber again, she's deeply involved with a man called Stuart. And Stuart is about 2 generations older than she is. Yeah, he's a Korean War veteran. So and Ethan's like, what is this all about? She's this vibrant young woman. She's barely 18, I think. And he's a little bit older. And Stuart is a great deal older. But the thing is with Amber, she's got daddy issues is a bit of an understatement. So she's looking for someone safe and reliable. And Stuart is a rich man. He's been a financial investor. But he's got children older than her and grandchildren. And Ethan's like, what are you doing? You're sort of signing yourself up for a life of wiping his bum, that kind of argument.
Do they think she's a gold digger?
Well, and there's that going on as well. So what is going on with Amber, and why is she marrying Stuart? And marry him she does. And then the rest of the book is really about how they meet and things happen between Amber and Ethan, because they are in love, and she can't deny it. So why has she done this other thing?
Yes, why is that?
And it's her desire for safety and almost like self-punishment, really. So she's quite the interesting psychological study. And Ethan is, I find him a bit more naive. I don't know if that is intentional in the writing, but sometimes you just think, well, why would you think that of her if you love her so much? And he makes some quite big stuff-ups, really. Yeah. So quite the interesting story.
It doesn't sound like it might have a happy ending.
It's got an interesting ending. Yeah.
So who's going to read that book?
Yeah, I think anyone that's interested in Christine because she wrote Caging Skies, what was known as Jojo Rabbit. Yeah, it is quite an intriguing love story. They're quite frustrating, the pair of them, really. Yeah, it'd be good for book clubs because there'd be a lot of discussion come out of it.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Don't know, haven't thought that one through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about The Maid. Is that a historical novel?
No, it's not.
No, why did I think that?
I know. I suppose because maids, you think of maids in their Victorian outfits. And this maid, Molly Maid.
Molly the Maid.
Molly Gray, she's a young woman. I think she's about 25, and she's lived with her gran. Her mum had some issues. They're in America somewhere. It doesn't actually state, but if you think of New York or one of the big cities, and she's lived with gran. They're not particularly well off. Gran's in service as well to somebody with a mansion, goes off and cleans there every day. And Molly goes to work at the Grand Regency Hotel, and she loves it. She is very organised. She doesn't read people very well. she has to go back to Gran and say, well, this happened and their face was doing this, and Gran will go, okay, well, that was probably concern, Molly, you know. So there's some kind of, it's never said that she's autistic, but there's clearly something going on there. She doesn't read people very well. So that makes her easy to manipulate. And she knows that people at work don't particularly like her and that they laugh about her. And she can't tell if they're laughing at her or with her. You know,
yes.
There's that going on. But she loves her job. She's the best maid. She gives absolutely 100%. And she's made some close bonds with regular customers. You know, there's the Chens, and they think she's marvellous. And, you know, what does she say? She says, you know, I have to return this to a state of perfection. You know, she wants to return everything to a state of perfection.
It was,
Actually made me want to clean my house. It was bizarre, because that's not something I normally get the urge to do.
No.
So that's Molly, and she likes Juan Miguel in the kitchen. He's a dishwasher, and she goes there and he gives her a nice glass of water when she's thirsty. And she's got this thing about Rodney, who's the bartender. He's just very handsome boy, and he's got a very smooth chest. That's the thing she likes about him. So those are the relationships that she has in the hotel. And then the catalyst for the story really moving along is she goes in to clean for this very rich couple. A rich man called Mr. Black and his younger wife Giselle, his second wife, the second Mrs. Black. And she's kind of forged this she thinks it might be a friendship with Giselle, even though it's not appropriate for her to do so. And Mr. Black's horrible. He's just very dismissive and blunt.
She's the hired help.
Yeah, and she's the hired help, and he's clearly not very nice to Giselle either. So she goes in one day, and Giselle's upset, and then she says, okay, well, I'll come back later. And she goes back later, and she's like, I need to pick this up, and what's going on in here? And Mr. Black is dead as a doornail in his bed. And Molly tries to call for help, and then she sees something in the mirror, and she flakes out. When she gets really, really stressed, she faints. Yeah. And then when she comes to, you know, on and on it goes. And there is something really interesting going on in the hotel. And Molly's right at the heart of it. But because she doesn't get all the cues that she should, she just you know, if you said to her, do this, and this is this, she would just take it absolutely at face value. And so she's ripe for manipulation. So all the way through, you're like, well, who is being genuine to Molly and who is not? And you know right from the start that Gran's died fairly recently. Molly's on her own with all this.
No.
So, yeah, it's fascinating, it's funny, it's a really good, intricate plot about, you know, who killed Mr. Black. Yeah. Or was he killed? Yeah. You know, so it was just great fun, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounded like it might be quite comedic in a way, but then you told me about how everyone sort of takes advantage of the girl, and I thought, oh, wow, 2 depressing books so far.
No, it's not really.
It's not a depressing one?
No.
Okay, so just one depressing one. That was the first one.
Yeah.
Tell us about Hine and the Tohunga portal. That sounds a bit like sci-fi to me.
It's just brilliant. It's by Ataria Sharman. And look at that for a cover.
I love it.
Yeah, it's got all sorts going on. So this is Hine, and that is also Hine. But there are 2 worlds for this girl. So Hine and her brother Hohepa, who's about 8. I don't think we know how old Hine is, but I would say she's probably about 11 or 12. They go to school, they go to Kura, and Hohepa's a bit of an annoying little brother, you know, and he thinks he's the best at kapahaka, and he's very loud, you know, and Matua says, oh, you're very loud, you know, and he takes that as a great compliment. And they're going home from school one day, and Hohepa's skipping on ahead, and he's singing, and it's driving Hine mad, and she just tells him to shut up, and he gets cross, and he runs off into the woods where they're not supposed to go, and she's like, oh, God, you know, Mama and Papa are going to be really cross. I've got to go and find him now. And then she feels something going off in the woods, and she sees Hohepa ahead with his little backpack on that's nearly as big as him. And then she sees things rise out of the ground, these Maori warriors, but their eyes are black and their teeth are sharpened to points.
Ooh,
and they grab him and they take him. And she runs after, and she goes through this portal as well. And finds herself in this deep dark forest, and she knows she's got to find her little brother. And so then the rest of the story is about where's Hohepa gone. So you get his chapters where he's been captured, and he's in this there is a very bad Tohunga who is, you know, magic man who is bewitching animals in this spirit realm, because that's where they've gone. It's not here and now anymore. More are still alive, and Tuatara have been transformed into Taniwha, you know, and he's got all these, and he's making dogs into big slathering beasts, and
awesome.
puaka into big boars and stuff. And so, and Hine meets mystical women, you know, it's Maui's grandmother,
wow.
you know, and she's got
Exciting.
cracked skin with lava flowing out of it, and she's made of fire, but Maui is a mokopuna, and she's very cross because he's stolen all her fire, you know, from her fingernails. It's all the old myths and legends blended into this story that is extremely exciting and edgy, you see it the whole way through.
So it's sort of like a parallel universe?
Yeah. Well, it's it's supposed to be like a spirit realm, or another realm where all these things are in existence and they can see us, but we're not really aware. And there are the fairies as well, and I haven't memorised the word, something pairihi. You'd know it if I said it, but you know, the Maori fairies with the pale skin. So just all the way through, it's quite violent though. But when you look back to things like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, that's quite violent. The fighting in that is quite violent. So there are epic battles in this, and people die, and people get speared by taiaha, and you know
if you look at the Big Bad Wolf, all those grim
quite
stories,
full on,
they
aren't
were
they?
very violent as well.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fascinating read. So bearing in mind the violence aspect of it, I mean, I think anyone's going to love it, aren't they? But who's it really aimed at?
It is aimed at children.
Yeah.
So, but it was edgy, you see, stuff for me as well. But I would say it's probably aimed at a 9 or 10 if you've got one of those robust readers that can do anything. And don't mollycoddle them.
No.
A lot of kids can do this kind of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sounds like a page turner.
Absolutely. Couldn't put it down.
And available right now at Wardini Books in
Yeah.
Havelock North or in Napier. Good on you, Lou. My pleasure as always. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next week.
Thanks, Ken.